Changes to Fort Hood following Vanessa Guillen's death and funding schools to be safe during times of emergencies. That is just some of what Representative Roger Williams is pushing for. Congressman Williams joins us live to give us his take on those measures, as well as President Biden's pitch for his infrastructure plan. Good morning, Representative Williams. It is always very good to speak with you. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
I want to start off first with the infrastructure plan that Mr. Biden has proposed. Yesterday, he was on the road in Louisiana. He said perhaps we can get the corporate tax rate between 25% to 28% to pay for this infrastructure plan. The current corporate tax rate is 21%. I know you are against the plan, against really the idea of raising taxes on any business, especially small businesses. Does this perhaps maybe sway you a little more?
Well, it sways me in the direction of not to raise taxes. I mean, we've got a situation here now where the economy is very good from the tax cuts we did in 2016. To raise taxes on small business right now to pay for this, which you can't raise taxes enough to pay for what President Biden wants. So we need to have a real infrastructure program that has the private sector involved. There's no private sector involvement right now. The more you get the private sector involved, the less it costs the taxpayer. So I want to see an infrastructure plan that has infrastructure in it and not a lot of other things that have been added to it. But raising taxes is not the issue. It's a big issue for me. I wouldn't support if we're raising taxes. We got to continue to cut taxes and put more money in the hands of Main Street.
Yeah, there'll be a much more discussion on this, I imagine, very busy for you. I want to move on and talk about Fort Hood, which is in your district. You hosted a roundtable this week for the community to talk about making changes on post. What was some of the feedback you got, Congressman?
Well, it was a great roundtable. We had business community there with us. We had excellent support. We talked about naming of the Fort Hood, which is a big deal to that community. We talked about sexual harassment, which we know is some of the things that we've had to deal with at Fort Hood. And we talked about housing to make sure our housing is the best for our young men and women that we can give them. They give us all. We need to give them all.
Why do they want to rename Fort Hood, change it? I mean, that kind of surprised me that it was a headline that stuck out of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a huge deal, quite frankly. I mean, we got to make sure that the committee that's now been appointed, 4 new members from the Biden choices, that they understand that the community needs to drive the naming of Fort Hood, not a committee, not an outside committee, an outside group. We need to have the say in it, and that's what we're going to make sure we do when we get with everybody, is that Fort Hood drives the dialogue on the naming and not some outside source, because we want to make sure that whatever name comes to Fort Hood, that it has a history with Fort Hood, not just some outside name, like I said, that has no meaning. So it's going to be important to our community.
And one more question regarding Fort Hood. You have said that you do not support the Am Vanessa Guillen bill because it takes too much power away from the installation. Is there a solution to what those who are asking for that bill?
Well, we have to talk about it. The bill as it is now, I can't support because, like you say, it brings too much outside involvement. It creates for lawsuits. It creates for trial lawyers. We don't need the trial lawyers running around Fort Hood. But it's a situation we got to get fixed across the country. Fort Hood has done a very good job of addressing this issue. I think they've been attacked a little bit more than they should have by some of my colleagues. But none of us agree with what's happened down there. And I think we're on a good pathway to fix it without a lot of government and outside intervention.
And finally, let's talk about your bipartisan Safer Schools Act, which aims to provide funding to make schools safer during an emergency, which unfortunately we are seeing too many of right now. What kind of improvements are you and your colleague, Congressman Ted Deutsch from Florida, hoping for?
Well, the great part of this, it's bipartisan. You just named Congressman Deutsch, a Democrat from Florida. And what it does, we can't forget the safety of our schools, our teachers, our precious future. And this is a bipartisan bill, which is important, that allows for $1.2 billion to be extended out to the states to use our local communities after schools have had opportunities to see what their needs may be by expert. They apply for it. It's a grant, and they get the money, and we try to make the schools safer. Every school is going to be different. So it may not go to school systems, but it will go to individual schools. But this is a bill we tried to get through last cycle. We ran out of time. But now, again, it's bipartisan. I hope that we can get an up or down vote on it, that it doesn't get put in a bad bill that hurts the ability to get it passed. We need to protect our teachers and our children.
As the school year is winding down, countdown to summer. Congressman Roger Williams, it is always a pleasure speaking with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.